What are yokai? Well, that's a yokai. That's a yokai. There's one. And I guess those are some too. Even if you don't know what yokai are, you've seen at least one or two of them in your life. Now, I'm no expert, but basically yokai are monsters in Japanese folklore. Now, these aren't the kaiju, and kaiju are giant monsters usually created or aggravated by science, but instead, yokai are a bit more spiritual in their essence. Also, don't get yokai and onryo confused. Onryo are vengeful spirits just like the ghosts in Ju-on the Grudge or in Ringu. No, yokai don't tend to be spirits of humans, but instead, they are spirits of personified objects, locations, or animals. The idea of yokai have been around for about 1,000 years now. It's grown and developed in many different ways throughout the centuries. Yokai were the unexplainable. They were the things in your closet or the things under your bed. It was easy to blame yokai when unexplainable events occurred. Eventually, Japan became caught up in science and really wanted to modernize, so the ideological belief in yokai was eventually seen as a mental illness. In small villages throughout Japan, the elders would talk about tales of the yokai, just like how the brothers Grimm had tales passed down onto them. A little Shigeru Mizuki heard the tales and eventually was the driving force to bring yokai back into the mainstream. Shigeru created a manga, or Japanese comic, in 1960 called GeGeGe no Kitarō, which showcased many yokai. Wait, why am I going to such great lengths to talk about yokai? Well, tonight I'm reviewing 100 Monsters from 1968, the first film to bring these crazy lovable creatures to the big screen. Welcome to the HellBound Horror Show. "100 Monsters", also known as Yokai Monsters, 100 Monsters, and also known as 100 Ghost Stories, is a Japanese horror film from 1968. 100 Monsters was created by Daiei Films, who also made the original Gamera series, as well as the Damashin films. 100 Monsters is a tokusatsu, which is basically a special effects heavy Japanese film from this era, and special effects is right. But before we get into all of that, what's the story about? The story is pretty basic. A rich landlord and his little army attempt to take the houses and the land away from the working class citizens. Eventually, the corrupt landlord gets his comeuppance, which is a very stereotypical ending for this type of film, but the uniqueness of this movie comes with the addition of the yokai monsters. You see, one night, the landlord has a fun storytelling event of the 100 ghost stories. Each time a ghost story is told, they extinguish a candle in the room. After the last ghost story, they extinguish the final candle. They must perform a magical ritual to get rid of any evil spirits after the ceremony is over, or else the creatures will attack. The landlord doesn't believe in the magic ritual and instead sends everyone home. That turns out to be a pretty bad idea because now all the yokai are free. Luckily though, the yokai only hurt bad people who ignore warnings. The film ends with a bombastic scene of all the yokai fighting. It's a fun game of spot that yokai. The story isn't anything special, but the special effects are just that. There are some pretty cool tricks for 1968, and even some where I wasn't sure how they pulled it off. Very cool stuff. The yokai are the best part about the film. 100 Monsters is actually the first in a trilogy of yokai films that all came out within a 2-year period. There's also a remake of the second film that was made in 2005. All of these films are beautifully restored in this wonderful Arrow box set. There's also a documentary that goes into the history of yokai, and it's great for Western viewers who may not know a lot about it. It's cool knowing that yokai are still popular to this day, with hit TV shows like Yokai Watch and even Pokemon. I love when I find out that the hot new thing is just something that's been passed down from generation to generation with a new coat of paint. And that's all I have for tonight, so as always, thank you so much for watching. Stay healthy, stay safe, and go catch 'em all, everyone.